everybody! So today I'll be reading The Circuit, Stories from the Life of a Migrant Child by Francisco Jimenez. It's this book right here. It's actually pretty tiny of a book. It's about 147 pages or 146 pages. And I think from just the brief synopsis that it's a collection of almost short stories from the perspective of Francisco Jimenez growing up. And it's more of an autobiography. So I'm really excited to read this. This is a really popular book amongst the Mexican American community and the Mexican community. And it's also written in Spanish, in case that's what you're interested in. But yeah, I'm really excited to get into it and share my thoughts with you. Okay, so today is day 2 of the circuit. I made it maybe, 63 pages in yesterday. So I made pretty good progress. I'm looking forward to finishing it today. There's a few things about this book that I didn't really expect, considering that it's such a classic. For one, it's not necessarily a classic narrative structure. So it's kind of broken up in between short stories. But I thought maybe it would follow some sort of plot, but no, it doesn't follow a plot. But I actually think that works because instead of being served like a story that's one-lined and less complex, you kind of get peeks into their lives and the family's lives. So for me, that actually works because it's a little more complex and it adds to the layers of everything. The other thing is it's written mostly in simple sentences. So it is really geared towards YA middle grade reading. However, the lines that are written are beautiful. I didn't expect to fall in love with the prose, but the prose in this book is unlike any other. And I think maybe because I can see what he's talking about, quite literally from my hometown. These things are recognizable to me. So I've really enjoyed it and I can't wait to finish it. Okay, so I just finished The Circuit, Stories from the Life of a Migrant Child by Francisco Jimenez. And I am actually kind of blown away by how much I enjoyed this book. I'm not a huge fan of anything like a short story collection or anything like that. So when I found that out about this book, I wasn't really sure on how I was going to feel about it. Also, the fact that it was published so long ago, I was kind of afraid that it was going to be antiquated and have really outdated views, but that is not at all what I found in this book. This book really gives a really good insight of what migrant children experience in America, and specifically migrant children from Mexico. And growing up so close to the border here in the Rio Grande Valley, I've just really come to enjoy this book, and I think it's really important. And earlier I mentioned how the prose in this book is so simple. It's mostly made up of simple sentences, but it's something that it's so raw and authentic that I think it gives a really good insight into what they were experiencing. So I actually highlighted a passage out of the chapter titled Death Forgiven, because I thought it perfectly summed up kind of the beautiful prose of this book, along with the fact the way that their culture is represented so authentically. Because I found myself looking into my own life and thinking about how some of these words and some of these experiences have been reflected throughout my life. And so it reads, it's on page 59. The shouting, screaming, and crying from our home chased me. I wanted to escape, to die. I finally reached the shed, dragged myself in, and closed the door behind me. It was dark and quiet. I fell to my knees and prayed for El Perico. The repetition of Santa Maria, Madre de Dios, ruega Señora por nosotros, los pecadores, ahora y en la hora de nuestra muerte. Amen. Slowly comforted and soothed my soul. Then I prayed for my father. And in this chapter, he's talking about the death of his parrot, hence Perico. And his dad actually, out of anger, sorry, my dog's growling, out of anger, hit him with a broom and killed Perico out of frustration. Of course, it's an inhumane act, especially from the perspective of somebody living in our situation, or my situation even. But that line that he prayed for his father, I think provides some powerful insight on how their struggles, how Francisco understood their family's struggles, even though he was just a boy, and understood that in a life like this, frustration, anger, those emotions are so powerful that sometimes they do get the best of you. And I just thought it was powerful. Of course, I mean, anytime you see a child kind of grappling with death and what that means, and how they cope with it, I was just kind of taken aback by how mature his response was, being that he's at this point, I believe, 12 years old. And it was just a very meaningful passage to me. I also think that the structure of this book, the fact that it was made up of stories rather than this plot, clean-cut story narrative style, was so great for this story, because it shows how fragmented and complex and intricate their lives are, which is something I really, again, I didn't expect to enjoy, but I really did enjoy, because we got glimpses of a world that we'll never truly understand. And it was just a beautifully written book. I really can't recommend it enough. If I had to rate it, I would give it a 5, a 4.5 to a 5. I really recommend it. And it's a pamphlet of a book. I mean, but yeah, I think if you can get around to reading this, you would be really lucky that you did. Yeah. But thank you so much for tuning into my video. I hope you pick this up, and I hope you feel like you should read it. Even if you just read a few passages out of the book, it really could mean something to you. But thank you so much. Bye.